Change is the one constant in the restaurant industry. We're going to discuss that today on the Restaurant Incubator. I'm Brandon Sharp. I'm your host. As an executive chef, I earned 7 Michelin stars. And now, as a chef, owner, and entrepreneur, I have 3 restaurants here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So, Dave Ramsey Dave Ramsey is a personal finance expert, radio host, author. He's known for his no nonsense advice on getting out of debt and building wealth through disciplined budgeting. So the other day he claimed that independent restaurants have an annual turnover rate of 300%. So turnover rate is defined as the number of times you have to replace someone in the same position during a year. So a turnover rate of 300% means that you had to rehire, for instance, the same line cook for the same position 3 times in 1 year. So you're losing people at a rate of every 4 months on average, which is incredibly inefficient and expensive, because to train someone, you either have to do it yourself or you have to have someone who is on that station already training them. So you're paying double for the same position. Also, when we talk about a learning curve for a position, it's pretty steep at the beginning. And that means that the new people in the positions are not going to be performing efficiently. So they might be, if they're cooks, they might be, not getting great yield out of the steaks they're cutting, or maybe they're burning or overcooking some of their scallops, or maybe they're not cutting their chives efficiently and too much of it is going in the trash. So they are not going to be working efficiently. So, high turnover rate is something that is awful for any business. I haven't fact checked that stat from Ramsey, but this quotation from him, it came from the same tirade where Ramsey was saying that restaurants were the worst possible investment that you could make, which is frustrating. But I myself have commented, sotto voce, that certain people would be better off lighting their money on fire and toasting some marshmallows to save themselves the time and heartache of opening their own restaurant. And no doubt many have said the same about me. I've seen people leave their restaurant jobs in all sorts of voluntary and involuntary ways. I've seen a cook go out to dry storage for a box of salt and never come back. I've seen a banquet bartender hammered, urinating behind the bar at a wedding reception moments before his immediate dismissal. I've fired a cook on the spot, unfortunately, for stealing money from the lockers and backpacks of other cooks. In July of 2007, we opened the restaurant Soul Bar at Solage Resort and Spa in Napa Valley's little town of Calistoga, all the way at the top end of Napa Valley. So finding good talent up there was just brutal. The cost of living is very high, and so were the wages paid by our competitors. And it being July, not only did we need to staff a 3 meals per day restaurant and an entire hotel, we needed staff for the pool, the patio, and the banquet operations. And we had a wedding reception on opening day. 50% of those attendees were Italian. One lady who spoke no English tried to give her egg order to the Oaxacan cook who was working the omelet station. And after a few frustrated exchanges, she almost took the pan out of his hand and made it herself. So needless to say, we didn't bat 1,000 with our hiring choices. I clearly remember one spunky young hostess stomping through the kitchen towards the back door during a hectic lunch, yelling, "That's it! I hate this place! And the manager's here!" And she turned and yelled over her shoulder, "Suck!" When I was the sous chef at restaurant Gary Danko in San Francisco, our butcher left for a week's vacation. The morning he was supposed to come back to work, he called and said that he was delayed in the Mexico City airport. Okay, fine, whatever. We'll pick up the slack. And the next day he called and said he was still stuck there. And on the third day he called and said he was still stuck there. What? We never heard from him again. I reckon he's still in that airport. Why did he even bother calling us? One night after service at the French Laundry, the other chefs de partie and I were sitting on our classroom stools, elbows down on the steel counter of the pass, grumbling our way through the next day's menu and writing our prep lists. We heard yelling in the dining room down around the corner of the breezeway. And all of a sudden, one of the back waiters who had recently moved from the kitchen to the front of house staff, and a guy who would eventually go on to win numerous James Beard Awards as a chef, came striding quickly by and said, "I don't think I'll work here anymore, y'all." My point is that restaurants are never stagnant. They are dynamic organisms that are always improving or deteriorating. Change is the constant of restaurant life. Sure, you may own and operate a frozen banana stand that has served only one thing for the past 50 years. But that doesn't mean that your prices, vendors, employees, or competitors will be the same for any amount of time. So what do we do with change? I can tell you from being a semi-self-aware and completely stubborn sumbitch that fighting change is a losing battle. I compare change to the ocean. Can you conquer the ocean or even predict its variables accurately? High tide and low tide, maybe, okay. But storms and sharks and tsunamis, forget about it. Can you survive the ocean? Yes. Learn to swim, don't go into the surf under certain conditions, and do the stingray shuffle when you're in Florida. Can you use the ocean? You sure can. Get a surfboard or a shrimp boat and master it. You cannot predict change, but you can set yourself up for success with tools, training, and an agile business mindset. COVID-19 was a tsunami for the restaurant industry. Many drowned, many survived, and some rode it to a better future. Adaptability at both the micro level, why do we peel onions like this? And the macro level, how should we adjust our operating hours given the latest edicts from the CDC? Is both a core function and a matter of scale. And a healthy company's psychological approach should be the same, should have the same adaptability no matter the scope of the decision. And that approach is one of relentlessly examining its systems and procedures. This ensures that no matter what winds of business change blow your way, you will already be running a trim, tight, and efficient ship. I often tell our managers that if the answer we give to an employee's why question is because that's the way we've always done it, we're failing. If a cook asks me why we make brown chicken stock the way I'm teaching him to make it, and I cannot explain to him the why simply and clearly, then I, one, don't understand the process well myself, two, have no good reason for teaching him to do it that way, and therefore cannot, three, hold him accountable to a standard that I myself don't understand, not to mention four, expect him to train the next person to execute it to that standard. So we dismantle the process either to the level of common understanding or all the way back to step one and begin again. The focus of your business by both guests and employees is your core product. Again, let's say it's a chocolate dipped frozen banana. Every system, policy, hire, advertisement, and purchase your business executes is done to support the profitable sale of chocolate dipped frozen bananas. The guests who visit your stand want to buy a chocolate dipped frozen banana. And when Joe Schmo sets up Schmo's strawberries down the beach and starts slinging CDF strawberries, you should have a sound enough business not only to withstand the pressure of competition, but to level up. Can you do chocolate dipped frozen bananas with sprinkles, or chocolate dipped frozen mangoes, or chocolate dipped frozen strawberries better than Schmo's? Competition in a zero-sum game in a limited market either pushes us to do better or takes our lunch and eats it. Competition in an expanding market can better the prospects for more than one company for a certain amount of time. But once the market is saturated by too many companies selling the same product, that product becomes commoditized and everyone's margins shrink as the race to the bottom begins. But that's what change looks like. Startups, underdogs, industry standards, monopolies, and all the rest of it. Like Don Henley said, they will never forget you till somebody new comes along. A likely supermajority of industry vets will tell you that their favorite thing about this work is that every day is different. Need we look any farther to demonstrate that change is the one constant of restaurants? What all guests want is consistency and variety, and only the very best restaurants can deliver both. If you would like a little help with the business side of your restaurant project, click the link in the show notes. I've built some digital tools that you can download and use. Maybe there's something there that will help you down the road, help you with your budgeting and business planning. Also, if you're enjoying this content and getting something out of it, please forward it to two friends in the restaurant industry who have a bright future. Stay humble, stay hungry.